have during the past 2 days talked a lot about, dynamics in the market, how we should change on it and increase product complexity. Configuration lifecycle management have been discussed over and over again. It will be very interesting to understand how you actually get started with that. And for this, we have our next presentation, and the next presenter is Jochen-Thomas Morr, who is the partner for digital operation R&D from PwC. Very warm welcome to you, Jochen.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome to everyone.
And we are really looking forward to see, some of the discussions we had over the past 2 days and see how can we actually get started on this CLM journey.
Yeah, will be a pleasure. Yeah. So I think, welcome, and again, welcome to everyone. And I think it was a very interesting discussion. Yeah, we had the last last 2 days. My time is not running. But anyhow, yeah. For me, as a let's say the last couple of years, I think there was a lot of movement, a lot of discussion about how to get started and how to basically operate. Digitization was a story 2 years ago, and how things have been moved. And I think nowadays, circular economy and other things are starting. And I know you had a very good intensive 2 days with a lot of interviews, a lot of, let's say, nice discussions. We on our side also had our winning products conference, so I could not participate all of the meetings. But interestingly, I think if you look at all the clients at the moment, what we see in the market is on one hand side, of course, that basically the life cycle, of course, between hardware software is one of the big challenges, right? So some products are, let's say, need to be faster replaced than others. Yeah, and it all is sold as a complete system to the clients. Yeah, we see, of course, digitization elements coming to it, but also the circular economy topics, right? Whether we see also 2 trends. Either one is basically recycling on one hand side. The other one is, of course, can I extend my product life cycle of a product? Yeah, which is, of course, a completely different story. Like looking at the meal and wash machine or so, you can either think, I can sell it every 5 years or every 10 years, or do I have a platform which allows me, for example, that only certain components of this are getting replaced, but I extend the life cycle of the product, which is, I think, also a new trend we see. So, which of course makes complexity management on one hand side very important, but also configuration lifecycle management. Yeah, we talk about efficiencies, right? We need to gain to digitization, functional integration, and so on. But on the other hand, I think when we looked at all our customers and all our, let's say, at our winning products conference, for example, a lot of companies have very good new products, new ideas to extend the product portfolio, to extend basically the business models more to, let's say, service lifecycle management, etc. But they have all the same problem about the data. Yeah, data is still in a brownfield environment at most of our Western European companies, right? It's still in a siloed structure. So everyone has the same problem, how to create basically overall a data model, how to create basically a connected end-to-end process, and allow through that basically also to manage the product portfolio, but also the configuration and the variations of the product over the life cycle. So I think there are key areas for improvement. We already see that. Yeah, one is definitely the data integration, which I already talked about, the loss across the value chain. We talk about how to do basically in the end agile development, how to integrate the tools, and how to basically drive modernization, standardization across the globe, across the portfolio. Yeah, and I think what is key, and I like this picture on the left because it's just, let's say, a very high-level graphic view, but in the end, it tells you a lot. Yeah, if you look at this factory, Yeah, one hand side, you talk about you want to start the transformation. Yeah, but what are the elements you need to consider? Yeah, it's not only about just doing a tech stuff or implementing a tool, because I think this is in the end, yeah, one part of the medal, but it's all about also, right, to come to the right architecture in terms of what is how my product, right, as a beginning, what is my product, what is my value case, what is my business model of the product. Yeah, afterwards, how, for example, do I see, yeah, what is my data model behind, what are my processes, yeah, from like the order management, but also ideation, but also the service process, what is underneath, yeah, when you have the product, when you have the process, what is underneath, basically the right technology to enable these processes. Yeah, we talk here about configuration lifecycle management in the last 2 days, the PLM, product lifecycle management, how you integrate it with the ERP, with the MES, yeah, but also what is the right organization and what is a change. Yeah, because I think also the change aspect is something, yeah, and we all know this in the end, yeah, 70% of all the transformation projects are failing, not because the technology is not there, it's rather because the people have not taken into consideration that for them the work is changing. Yeah, like ChatGPT and other things also, we talk about it. It has so much impact on the workforce, and I think this is also very important that this is adequately considered. Yeah, for that, of course, this is, let's say, our PwC framework. Yeah, in the end, but for that, we develop from our perspective a framework that helps in the end the clients, right, to help on these 4 elements, making sure you have the product portfolio, streamlined, and the product structure, and the product complexity, which, what I said, enables in the end the end-to-end process. But this allows you also to manage this over the life cycle with the underlying technology organization. So these are all the elements which you need to have. It needs to be value driven. I think that's always clear. Yeah, transformation only works when you see a clear value. And I come to this in a bit. What are typical value drivers for CLM transformation? But I think this is in the end very important, and it's also very important that you look at from a holistic point of view. Even if you do just a small exercise and just implement, as we heard at Netherman, for example, the solution very concrete, you still need to consider what do I want to change overall. Yeah? And I think when you look at this value chain, and I think this is very important, in the history, when we started in the 80s, 90s, we implemented SAP for the transactional data. Yeah, and on the other hand, in the 90s, key companies started with, let's say, I would say with a PDM, storing my product data somewhere, yeah, and making sure that my drawings and so on are basically stored. And from that, we build up our architecture at most of the clients, yeah, that you will still basically have a siloed functioned architecture. You have some tools for ideation, you have tools for basically how to configure a product, you have tools for, let's say, drawing, for, let's say, doing the MRP planning, for the procurement department, yeah, transportation, for service, and so on. Yeah, so you have dedicated tools in the end for the full circle. And if you look also in the middle, all these processes were historically independent by each department, right? R&D was developing the product, sales was configuring or selling it to the client independently if the configuration makes sense or not. Sometimes, yeah, they sold what they can sell, yeah, even. So then we had a lot of engineer-to-order work in a lot of, not in the automotive industry, but in this industrial products, for example. Yeah, and so you always had a very sequential way of working. Yeah, then once the drawing was done, the procurement department was starting to procure the components, and you were starting producing it, and you only saw the results if it's possible to produce it. For example, when you have a more complex product. When you saw it on the shop floor. I think even through digitization, we saw that a lot of movements have been done on digitizing manufacturing, digitizing also, let's say, logistics and procurement. But I think on the R&D side, we still see that most of the companies still develop like 20 years ago. But this is also one of the big issues, right? Because you never think through when you develop a product, can you configure the product, or the way how you want to configure the product, and what this is the implication of the, when I want to have variations, what is the implication? And when the client want to order it through, let's say, for example, a configurator, can I directly produce this configured order, yes or no? Or is there something in between, like in the automotive industry, where you still have most of the configurators, person sitting in between and then translating, okay, is it now possible to order this product the way it was configured on the web platform, yes or no, as an example, right? So it's not directly connected. But in nowadays, in the days of digitization, all these things need to be connected. Yeah, you need to have a seamless workflow. You need to basically be able to combine all these different tools. So and that's in a greenfield approach, you would do it differently. You would simply have end-to-end systems, like you would have whatever an S/4HANA transformation, and a new PLM system allows you to connect in an MES system, for the manufacturing piece. One PLM storing all product data, ERP transactional processes, MES for, let's say, for example, for the production, and of course a CLM tool for the client base. And you need to connect all these systems so that the variations, and when we have a configuration, that this all works together. But most of the clients also have a brownfield, so it's not that easy. So it's not easy to just take SAP and let's just do the work. So you need to basically think through. And that's why I think I also come to a point in the end. But I think for me, most importantly, also on this chain, to get started, I think it's very key that most companies try to do it brownfield and try simply to take the existing tool chain, the existing environment, and do a big transformation. And I've seen a lot of them, not being successful, to be honest. So I think that's key to consider how to get started. And I come to this in the end. Benefits, I think also very importantly, on these topics, on configuration lifecycle management and product lifecycle management, is very important. You have two sides of a benefit. On an S/4HANA transformation, as an example, you don't have a benefit itself. It's an update of a tool, but it doesn't bring you a lot of, let's say, financial benefits. On these projects, and we have seen this now, over 500 transformation projects at PwC, that it's two sides. You have a benefit on the sales side because you have faster time to market, and you have, through the business models you create through configuring products, for example, you have also additional revenue you can gain. So that's one side. On the other side, it allows you, of course, to reduce massively costs, especially when you come from engineer to order, and you want to configure going forward. It helps you a lot to reduce, to do similar parts management, etc., to reduce basically your COGS, the scrap, rework, labor efficiency, etc. So we see basically both benefits. And now at two of my clients, as an example, we talk of 5 to 7, 8% even of COGS savings we have realized through a transformation. We also can be like at 1 or 2%, but it's depending a little bit on the product. So there's a huge benefit behind when you do it. And I think on the other hand, which is also, and this just gives you an example of a client, when you look at for example, at Krone, it's a trailer company. They produce basically trailers, like one of the largest trailer companies in the world. The issues they have, or the challenge they have basically with their trailers, is each customer wants that the trailer looks different. You have a different painting, you have a different, let's say, logo. That's still easy because you just take the outside of the trailer. But depending on what you basically ship with a trailer or with transport on the street, you have a different structure of the trailer, right? If it can be glass, it can be, for example, paper, it can be automotive components, it can be different types. So and also depending on which streets you're driving, also the trailer axles and so on are designed differently. So you have so many variations, even for a product, when you produce, for example, 60 to 100,000 trailers per year, which is still like not a mass production, but it's kind of a mid-sized production volume. Yeah. You don't produce, sometimes you produce maybe 2 trailers which have the same size, the same look and feel, but when you produce most of the trailers, you just produce lot size 1. So there are a lot of variations in it. Yeah, the same goes for, and this drives, of course, a lot of complexity because you cannot simply configure it. So it was traditionally all engineered to, most of them were engineered to order. So what we did in the end, at this client, for example, we designed the complete end-to-end order fulfillment process on one hand side. Yeah. On the other hand side, we created like a modular together, of course, with let's say a modular strategy. Like they're saying, okay, you have a data model, or they created that. Yeah, that you have basically a data model for the R&D department. Yeah, how to design and configure the basically all variations of the product, or pre-configure that. Yeah, on the one hand, you had to set a sales model. Yeah, how to basically bundle all the theoretical options into sales options you want to sell. And on the other hand, because I think this was also one of the key innovations, how to basically, when you have different production sites, translate the sales options then into a manufacturing data model that directly allows you to place the order. Yeah, and dependently in which site, yeah, of course you can also place it then in the different sites. So this was kind of the game changer, right? Having a new order fulfillment process, having basically a parameterized data model, done basically together, of course, here with Configit and Windchill as a PLM vendor, and then Krone at let's say as an orchestrator. But I think this was one of the key changes. Yeah? For them, it's a key benefit because now, instead of having engineer to order, they can configure all the trailers and can basically directly produce them to the customer needs. The challenge, and I think this also was always how to get started on this one. Yeah, because you could do it for the full product portfolio. Yeah, but I think, and also for the old products, and I think we said, hey, together, I think it doesn't make sense. Yeah, because I think you have so much migration effort. If you take all the existing products and existing brownfield system landscape, et cetera, so that we focus basically on a new platform, yeah, which was basically one of the newest that's a new trailer that got launched. Yeah, as a new platform, which was already then in a modular structure designed. Yeah, which allowed basically also to translate all the ideas into a basically into reality. Yeah, and for them it's of course a huge game changer because they're now much faster in selling the products. It's very clear what product can be sold from a sales perspective, how it can be produced, what is the lead time, because you directly get the feedback, when in which plant can I place the order, what is the lead time, and come back with a true feedback to the client, so you also increase client satisfaction in the end. Yeah, so this was kind of the key story, but getting it started on one new platform, and based on this platform, design basically a new technology stack, I think was key for the success. And of course, also taking the people with them. Yeah, so there was a dedicated, good project team that was focused with a lot of, let's say, top management attention on it from a business perspective. So it was also business driven, which I think is one of the second key elements. It was a business driven approach, technology enabled. Yeah, so I think these are the two things which are very important, and of course. Also, that's the different data models at the end, which were predefined and allowed basically to combine and orchestrate the configurations between the ERP, the PLM, and basically the CRM tool and production. Yeah. I have another topics. Well, now I would say I still have two minutes. Yeah. Otherwise, I would be time to ask a couple of questions. But maybe when I still have some sometime in between. Then I would come to my last slide. From my perspective, I said already a couple of points. What makes it so important and what makes it successful is on one hand side that it's a journey. I think it's all clear. It is a journey you need to take. It's nothing you get, and we learned this from the other talks earlier. It's nothing you do in 6 months. Yeah. But it's so important that you connect all relevant systems to be fully automatically, to orchestrate your products fully automatically in the organization. I think this is a unique advantage, and I think technology is all there, and the clients who do this have and are fast in this process and doing this transformation have, of course, a high USP in the market, and are I would say, are winning, of course, much more market share than others, because they're simply faster and more, let's say, have a higher satisfaction to the client and are much more automated in this process, and more profitable. And I think this journey, there's a second point, importantly, I also mentioned this already, it needs to be business driven. So you need to consider, it's always very important that the key business stakeholders are driving it. It doesn't make sense if you ever do a transformation project like this and you do just it from a middle management perspective. You will not have the speed and you will not have the money to drive it end to end. Yeah, and therefore I think this is very important also to, in the end, to be successful. Yeah, all the clients I have who have done this journey, they always said in the end, we had sometimes to enable it, but in the end they all have fully management commitment behind. Yeah, so it's business driven and technology enabled. The third thing, the organization need to empower it. To be able and to understand that you need to manage variations across the different domains and tools. So tools, I think I mentioned, that's clear, but it's also important breaking the silos, that departments need to work together. For example, it's important that you have the different BOM structure. It's also important that, procurement person needs to look at the variations, complexity, because they identify how similar parts can be better managed. So for them, it's also very important, right? For manufacturing, it's important to see what are similarities in my product portfolio, in my portfolio, and so on. And so for service, of course, it's also important. So it needs to be connected also through the different domains, and which in the end results in a 360-degree data model, which is, of course, part or one of the key elements which also you need, to be able to configure, and like I said, when you start, always look on a new product or a new platform. Never start with something brownfield old, because simply you will not be fast enough. And it also doesn't help you, I would say, because the migration effort is typically way too high. Of course, you will always do some migration, but when you want to start, take something new, which you want to basically build your future business on. Having that said, I'm not sure if there will be any questions, but otherwise, I wish everyone a great evening. Tomorrow you have the tech day, and for me it was a pleasure to be here, and let's stay connected. From my perspective, many thanks.
Thank you very much, Jochen, for your presentation and information about how and which steps we need to take in order to get started with the CLM journey. Thank you for that. With regards to that, the presentation you showed has several slides with CLM and PLM in a synonymous way. Can you please elaborate on where you see commonalities and differences when it comes to the configuration management?
So the commonalities are clearly that the PLM manages the product data over, let's say, over the life cycle. So it's always over the life cycle where you initiate basically a product structure with. So this is one thing. And it's cross-domain and not only engineering focused. The same goes for CLM, because CLM is basically managing your configuration over the life cycle. So that's why I think both tools are highly connected. Yeah, and then this also explains why ERP is, for example, doing the transactional processes. So that's why I think, and then in the end, CLM is translating it to all the different tools, because PLM is not focusing too much on the variation management. Of course, you can do variations in it, but it's not, let's say, the configuration, the sales perspective, combining the sales perspective with, let's say, the manufacturing R&D perspective. And I think this is where CLM comes into play to, let's say, connect the dots across the tools and orchestrate the, let's say, the variations through the life cycle. Yeah?
Super. You also mentioned that you suggest that, in order to get started, you want to have a new product to get started. Why not to use an established one?
I think it's a little bit depending where you are in the journey, but my experience is simply when you do this, when you do a complete transformation, or you want to create a complete transformation for creating new business models and so on, I think the trend or the time is right now right, because you have the sustainability requirements of circular economy, and you have so much new things you need to consider by regulatory elements and so on. It simply, you need to change anyhow at some point the way you develop your products and the way you basically create new revenue. Yeah, and therefore I think it's much easier to stop, let's say, to think new about how to connect processes, how to create a data model, and so on. Yeah, I think it's simply faster. But you cannot, if you take an existing product, and you typically have also brownfield system landscape on all elements, and this is, I think, I would say the entry point. You still can do it, but the entry point is, and I would say the money you need is higher, and it's typically slower. And top managements, also want to see fast results at one point. And I think with a new product, you can see results simply much faster, and then you can still, from there, you can translate it to the existing product portfolio. Yeah?
Thanks a lot, Jochen, for the clarifications and your presentation. Very valuable information. Thank you very much.